Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. It's great to be back. I had a few days vacation last week, and I spent it over on Georgian Bay, if you know Ontario at all. It was nice. It was a little bit windy one of the days, but I had a really great time, and I am super excited to be back with you today to talk about all the supply chain topics and what's been happening on my Thoughts and Coffee, plus what's coming up on Let's Talk Supply Chain as well. So this week's episode, we have a new Woman in Supply Chain series episode with Martha Lumatete, and it's an amazing episode. It's inspiring and motivating, and I hope that you can go and check that out. It is episode 127, wherever you subscribe to Let's Talk Supply Chain. Plus, you can find it over under podcasts at letstalksupplychain.com. Then we've got a bunch of new things happening. I think last week we had some new supply chain minute with Irina Roska. Last Thursday, we had a new data den with Susan Walsh. So if you haven't gone to check those out, go and check those out over on the SC Supply Chain TV over on YouTube. We've had some really, really great feedback on that. And then this Wednesday, the question of the week. So I'm going to tell you what the question of the week is, and we're going to be posting that on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram tomorrow morning. And we want you to comment. Make sure you comment on the Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page, because that is where I take the comments and I talk about them on the upcoming episode. So the question of the week is going to be, what is your top priority in your supply chains right now? I know that that is a huge, huge question, and it's going to unpack all sorts of stuff tomorrow. So I can't wait to see you over there. And then on Thursday, we are releasing a brand new mini series. You're not going to want to miss this one. And it's called You Won't Believe What We've Seen. I'm partnering with the guys over at SQA Services. And the first episode is about aerospace and aircraft, and it's called Mission Control. And it is so good. I can't wait for you guys to check it out. So my guest for today is Demo Perez. Hi, Demo. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Sarah. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, all the way from Panama, actually. So Daniel is here from Panama too, right? He's your partner in business. So we're glad to meet you. We've got a lot of people checking in right now. Omar from Mexico, Michael from Tampa, Scott. Hey, Scott. Great for you to join us from Atlanta, and from the Supply Chain Now team. Oriol from Barcelona, and Fabian is back. Thank you to everybody. We've got Stefan from Dallas. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. So Demo, you are joining us all the way from Panama. Why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do, and what you love about supply chain?
Well, yes, my name is Demostenes Perez. Everybody call me Demo in the industry, and my family and friends. I have been on the supply chain industry for over 20 years. I started my career as a courier with FedEx many years ago, and I will all down to managing warehouses, to managing contracts from big global companies. So I have been in freight forwarding business, not that much, but a little. And now, a year ago, with Daniel, my business partner, we founded IPL Group, which is a 3PL, a warehouse in 3PL, based here in Panama, in the Colón Free Trade Zone of Panama, which is the biggest free trade zone in the Western Hemisphere, helping companies to with their distribution needs for Latin America. So very excited on that.
Awesome. And I guess we should give a little bit of a backstory on how you and I met. Last year, you reached out to me and we had a conversation. You were like, I am going to put on this amazing event, this amazing supply chain event in Panama, and I want you to be a part of it. I was like, Hell yes, I do. I've never been to Panama. I definitely want to get involved. And actually, it turned out that I moderated the first ever, I think, woman in logistics panel in Panama, which was super exciting. And when I was talking to people at the event after that panel discussion, I got a lot of really great feedback from men and women about how much they learned just from the conversation that we had up on stage.
Yes, and the best thing about that panel was that they were this a group of amazing ladies. Some of them are right now in our audience,
Yeah.
um, and, and they were sharing like very personal stories in the industry. Some of them at the time were my clients, others were my colleague and friends. So it was really cool to have that conversation at that level. And to be honest, even though the complete event was a blast, because it was, that particular panel made the most noise of everything. Because
Yeah.
it was the first time a panel like that was done here. And the other thing that was so cool that we were broadcasting live for universities and other institutions we did for the educational part. So we had a lot. We're like a month after the event, and we still were getting feed about that panel.
Yeah.
And a lot of women in this region were so identified. And it was so fun. The story of putting together that group. Some of them were not. I never been at an event like that. I never been in a panel. Like, come on, just talk. And they were so amazed, so empowered. So I think that we did a great thing, and hopefully we can do it soon.
Yeah, we want to do that. We definitely want to do it again. I know we were trying to do it this year, but obviously,
Yeah,
2020 happened. I think that's the new catchphrase, right? 2020
yeah.
happened and we weren't able to pull it together this year, but hopefully maybe for next year we can talk about doing something like that, or we can talk about doing something virtually. So we're definitely going to get together and figure that out so we can bring that to you guys as well. So want to say hi to a few more people. Luke from Nigeria. Imran is coming from UAE. And so good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us. And we've got Nicholas from the UK as well. All right. So our first topic is my thoughts and coffee post from Sunday. And I don't know if anybody had a chance to take a look at it, but every Sunday I do a thoughts and coffee post where I talk about different things that have happened in my career, in my personal life. I also talk about, I think next week might be about shame resilience. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into that one because I just finished Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And what an amazing, amazing book. But this week, let's get back to this week. So this week's post is once in a lifetime. You will never know unless you ask. I mean, how many times have we heard that, right? I don't know about you, Demo, but I hear that statement all the time.
Yeah, it's something like you hear that, and sometimes just feeling all those questions in your mind. That what if I did that? What if I don't? So fear is something like it's an energy. So
Yeah.
we must take that out and just move forward and get something. And the reality is that you get amazing things just for asking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the reality is that it hits everybody, right? No matter
Yeah,
what industry you're in, no
yeah, yeah,
matter how far in your career you are, it hits everybody. And you're actually tasked with choices on a day-to-day basis. And some of that choice has to do with some of the questions that you're going to be asking and what you're going to be asking for. So this post goes over when I was in California about 10 years ago. My husband and I did the WB tour, and I walked into the store, and my husband was like, "There's no way you're going to get any tickets. There's no way." And I walked in, and I was like, "Can I get some tickets to Ellen?" And they were like, "Well, she's fully booked, but we do want to get you tickets to something." I was like, "Yeah, right, whatever." And then the next day, I got contacted by a producer from the Lopez Tonight Show, and we ended up in the audience of the Lopez Tonight Show, and it was an amazing experience. We ended up really close to the stage. Sofia Vergara was one of the the guests that day. And so I kind of wanted to throw that story out there and talk to everybody and just sort of see like what are the things that you've had the courage to ask for? What is something that you've had the courage to ask for that's turned out really well for you, Demo?
Well, let me tell you a story. Back in 2019, I was at that time in the FedEx world, and we went to at that time FedEx used to organize an event in Florida, which is the Orange Bowl, and the Orange Bowl was in the middle of that event, the New Year's, and that was the Y2K and all the noise. So we went there, my wife and I, a group of kids. We were, I don't know, 25. She was like 20, something like that. So in the party at that very nice resort in Doral, we saw Fred Smith, the founder and CEO of. I told my wife, this is Fred Smith. I have seen him in magazines.
Right.
She said, let's go to meet him. I said, are you crazy? No. He's Fred Smith. No. He said, let's go. So we just went. She actually did it. And we ended up having a 15-minute conversation with Fred. And we met her mother. And we ended up our conversation with her was amazing. And that for sure was one of those huge experiences that I had in my career just for asking, just to meet this guy. And I have tons of stories, tons, but that was, I think, one of the coolest on this particular industry we are in.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you know what, to go up to somebody after they've spoken, especially somebody like that, to go up and ask your questions and to find out more about them. And that takes a lot of courage as well. So aren't you glad you did it though? I mean, it's so scary sort of at the, and everybody's like, no, don't do it. No, don't do it. No, don't do it. Then you go ahead and do it. And then it ends up being one of the best experiences of your life. And that's literally what I wanted to get across in that post yesterday was like, you have to ask, just do it. Just ask. What's the worst case scenario? They say no. Okay. No. And move on. You know what I mean? So I'm glad you shared that story. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to move on to our supply chain topics. And the first one's a very, very big one because everybody's talking about it, obviously. Actually, before we go to that, Tim just showed up hi, Tim. He says, as corny as it sounds, my courage to ask my wife to marry me and her saying yes, the best question I ever asked in my life. I love that. Tim, this is not just about supply chain. This is not just about business. This is definitely about some of the stuff that you're doing in your personal life. And that's amazing because I could only imagine as, somebody who is asking somebody else to marry them. Like that's a really big commitment. That's a really big question. And you're right. That's something that is definitely, scary. I can only imagine, right?
Yeah.
Scary because if they say no, it's a big thing. All right. So let's get to supply chain topics. So we are talking about the COVID vaccine. And before we actually came on this Thoughts and Coffee, Demo, AJ, and I, we were all talking about whether we would go back to in-person conferences. And part of that discussion was whether we're going to have a vaccine or not. And then, how are we going to make sure people are vaccinated at the event? And then how are event producers going to be able to get insurance for that? And how are they going to make sure people have that vaccine? So this topic not only covers supply chain, but it covers so many different things. And some of the discussions that I've been having recently is whether we are prepared as supply chain. We all saw the supply and demand, the bullwhip effect that happened with toilet paper at the beginning of the pandemic. And now we're talking about whether the supply chain is really prepared for what needs to be happening when we have that vaccine. So Demo, what do you think?
Well, it's most uncertainty of what we're doing, the vaccine, every day there are news about that and countries like making reserve of it, if it's working or not. There are many questions regarding the vaccine. that we cannot answer, and we don't know
Yeah.
yet if it's going to work or not. Health organization yesterday say that it's not a complete sure that the vaccine will work. It's noise everywhere, but the thing is that we need something. We need something to move out this crisis, and we are putting a lot of faith on that vaccine. People against vaccines are saying that they will not get it.
Yeah.
But at the end, we need to move forward, whatever reason it is. So, and the distribution of it will be a challenge. We know for that. Supply chains, some probably are ready for that, others don't.
Yeah.
And that will be the biggest challenge. How the makers, the pharmaceutical companies, the humanitarian organizations will be working on this. So it will be a real challenge for all of us in this business, because we will be involved in many ways.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to consider. I mean, we had on the last Thoughts and Coffee, we had, or two Thoughts and Coffees ago or so, we had Irina Roska on, and she
Yes.
works for Helix. And we're actually going to be, I should actually show this article as well, because they're going to be involved with
Yeah.
testing. So
Yeah.
COVID-19 testing, and kudos to them over at
Yeah.
Helix for being part of that program, because it says they are making it one of the highest throughput of COVID-19 laboratories in the country, which is a huge accomplishment. But what we were talking about when she was on the last Thoughts and Coffee was, supply. Where are we going to get the vials from? Some articles are talking about the lack of supply in the glass vials. So where are we going to get that? I mean, there's a lot of things to consider, I guess, is
Yeah.
what I'm kind of getting at. Some of the other things that we need to consider from a distribution standpoint. I mean, we have to consider the supply to be able to get, the vaccines to people. Then we have to consider the transportation. I mean, if you're running PPE and you leave PPE on the tarmac, it's not going to ruin. But if you've got a vaccine, I mean, that's a whole nother transportation story, right? Because
It's a,
you've
it's
got
a complete,
yeah,
yeah, it's a
sorry, go
complete
ahead.
different thing.
Yeah. Yeah. From a temperature standpoint, from all sorts of
Trustability, controls, security, because
yeah,
there will be huge security involved in it, because everybody wants it, and it will be a black market. Will be a lot of things involved. It's
yeah.
a huge process.
Yeah, that's a really great point, because the other point that this article makes is about accessibility. So who's going to get it first? How are we going to do that? And if people are mad that they're not getting it first, what does that actually mean? And how are we going to get it to people? And then the other part of this article is also talking about, in the fairness and accessibility, how are we going to get it to remote areas, impoverished areas where drones are now used to just are we going to use drones? Is that what's going to help us on the transportation side and on the last mile to deliver those vaccines? I mean, there's a lot to consider here, and there's a lot of ground. I mean, pardon the pun, there's a lot of ground to cover with this vaccine. And
Yes.
how are we going to get there? And what does that look like? So, I know this article is saying that is supply chain ready for this? But at the same time, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of companies involved. How are we going to get together I think the better question is, how are we going to get together as collaborative partners to make sure that this is going to work and make sure that we can get the vaccine to everybody?
Yeah, yeah. I want to add on that. As you know, Panama, it's a hub, right? And we
Yeah.
have this humanitarian hub also here, and that humanitarian hub that serves mainly for the Caribbean, for um, emergency situations. They are getting prepared for that,
Yeah.
for receiving those vaccines and distribute to the Caribbean islands, using the Panama Logistics Hub and other countries in the region, Central America, and some countries in South America. But okay, it's okay, they are ready. It's okay. That hub is located just beside an airport, which is used for that. But the point is how those vaccines will come,
Yeah.
the origin, who will be the manufacturer. There are 150 companies looking forward to have the vaccine. So I think those challenges will be pretty important, and hopefully we are in a part of the year that we got a lot of floods. Weather conditions will be also a challenge for keeping those cold chains, those controls, and especially because we are dealing with a lot of poor countries, as you mentioned, and richer countries are are reserving the vaccines for them. So it's a humanitarian crisis, it's a health crisis, it's a supply chain crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think, to say that it's up to supply chains for us to really figure this out is, not okay. I mean, we're problem solvers, right? As supply chain people, that's what we do, and we're going to be there all day long. But we're going to need some support, because, like Scott Luton has said in some of the comments, he says, "Wow, what a huge project," and then he comes back and says, "Project doesn't even do it justice." I mean, that's for sure, right? This is going to be a huge undertaking, and people from all sorts of places are going to have to come together to figure out how we're going to do that. All right, so moving on to the next one. This is where you're going to come in, because I want to talk about Panama and Latin America. So this next conversation is obviously something that we've been talking about. I've been talking a lot about in the last couple of weeks: offshore versus domestic. Why consider supply chain diversification? This one's in Forbes, and we're going to have all of the links to these articles in the comments for you, so you can check that out. But it's true, right? Everybody's having these conversations. A lot of people are saying it's not going to happen overnight. It can't happen overnight. There's way too many moving parts. And that's what we're talking about in this particular article. But I want to talk to you about Panama. And Panama, I mean, I was shocked about how much emphasis Panama puts on supply chain. I think it was like 30% of the GDP, I think. And how you guys are really the gateway to Latin America. And so if you're really looking at diversifying what you're doing currently, taking a look at Panama as a part of your strategy is huge. So talk to me about that. Tell me a little bit about Panama and what people are doing and utilizing, the country to help them in their supply chains.
Well, the country have been a maritime hub for many years, many years, and also became a logistics hub, let's say, for the last 40 years, right? So you will find here an important number of global companies that uses the logistic platform in Panama for regional distribution. And in regional, I mentioned, I mean Caribbean islands, Central America, and probably the north of South America, which is a huge market. Let's say from Chile to Guatemala, if you see a map, which is a huge market. But getting the benefits of the connectivity, the narrowest part of the continent, the canal, which is the backbone of the logistics system. Having all those ships coming from all over the world make easier to use Panama. But now what we are thinking is that if you can have a manufacturing or a lean manufacturing center inside of the logistics hub, that would be amazing, because you will get the two big benefits. The issue is that Panama is not a manufacturing country at all.
Right.
Panama is a service economy based country. So we don't have experience in manufacturing. We don't have people. We are a very small country. So now the government, a guy is promoting a new law, which is to give additional benefits to manufacturing companies that can move part of their manufacturing projects into Panama to install them inside the logistic hub, which is pretty cool, because you can be doing some manufacturing, build to order projects, and you can be in the port in an hour or less.
Right.
So you can be working on production tonight, and tomorrow that production could be on a ship going to Colombia, going to Jamaica, or to Dominican Republic. So making the melt of the logistic hub with the manufacturing capacities will be huge. And we believe that will help a lot on all these initiatives that are going on. And another thing that I would like to add is the security. security is always an issue, and we don't talk that much about in supply chain, but it's, if you go to some countries, security is a huge problem.
Yeah.
So I was reading FreightWave's report on Mexico. A theft index is huge. I was amazed, and unfortunately, due to the small distances and the fast movement of products, we don't have that is not a big issue here. So that's another benefit that I think companies are looking to.
Well, and I think the free trade zone too. We don't talk a lot about that. We hear all about the Panama Canal,
Yeah.
but you guys really you have that free trade zone in Cologne. And if people are taking a look at their supply chain strategies and what they're doing, and taking a look at hubs and maybe different ways of moving their cargo. Panama is a great location for that, especially with the free trade zone. And so are you seeing a lot more people utilizing that in their supply chain strategies?
Yes. Currently, we are seeing new projects with all what is happening with the nearshoring initiatives and the questions about where to go. We are getting some new requests for coming into Panama to work on that. And again, the opportunity of being so close to your end customer,
Yeah.
In a safe way, in a fast way. We are working on more connectivity between government systems. That's an issue we're solving it right now. Very cool that the two main government systems, the free zone system and the custom system, just get interconnected, and both have new co-programming on using GS1 standards, which is
Oh, awesome.
huge. Yeah, because the GTIN numbers will be used to control all the goods coming in and out. That
Yeah.
that will add a lot of visibility and a lot of transparency to the all the transactions, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, no. And then Abdullah just said Dubai is another great free trade zone between Europe and Asia. That's a really great
Yes.
point. And these are all things that we as supply chain professionals need to talk about and think about as we're moving into new strategies. And then I just want to give another shout out to Tim because he noticed my new coffee cup, which is Marvel's. I got this on vacation. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a Marvel's coffee cup, and definitely it needs to be big for thoughts and coffee and for my morning coffee, anyways. So last but not least, we've got we've just got one more article left actually, and we're going to be talking a little bit about diversity and inclusion. So Gartner, while I was on vacation, I think, or just before, came out with this survey saying only 17% of chief supply chain officers are women. I have a few things to say about this. I think that those numbers, I think that it's great that we know the numbers. I'm wondering a little bit about, who the people were that participated. It said Gartner's survey included 177 supply chain professionals. Who were those supply chain professionals? Where did we get this information from? And I also want to point out that the discussion that I've been seeing a lot is really gender related, but diversity and inclusion is way more than that. And I think we do need to talk about the gender. I mean, obviously I've got the Woman in Supply Chain series and we want to promote those voices, but diversity and inclusion is much more than that.
Yeah.
And it's about diversification of voices, and it's about, people from all walks of life doing amazing things in supply chain. And so I think we're just putting way too much on the gender aspect of diversity right now, and I think we need to expand that to include all sorts of supply chain professionals. What do you
I
think?
agree. I agree totally with you. And there is not a gender thing at all. It's about capacity. Who's the best on delivering the results, especially in
Yeah,
supply chain.
yeah,
We are result driven people in industry. So it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or where you come from. If you are the best on delivering results, that's you're the person. So for me in personal, that I don't have that issues in my head. I have always have women in my team very close. I know. But we got some lady that I
Hi,
really
Angie.
like.
Just want to say hi to Angie.
You know, she was part of my team for many years, and I love her. And beside Angie, others, I trust on women, because of, not because they are women, because their capacity, because they are intelligent people.
Mhm.
And so I don't have that issue on if they are women or not. It's just because what they have, what can they deliver, and what can they support the project. So it's
Yeah,
pretty
and I
cool.
just, you know,
Yeah.
I think that opportunity needs to come for everybody. And when we're talking about, like I said, diversity and inclusion, we need to include everybody from all walks of life, and whatever that means, but also be able to lay the groundwork for the opportunity for all of them. And but I just hope that we have had a lot of focus on the gender topic. And I hope that we can grow that topic into several different discussions. And one of the things that I'm working on is a special series that's going to be coming out in Q4 about this, because we want to hear from more diverse voices. And we want to do more surveys to make sure that we are hitting those marks, but in all aspects, not just the gender aspect. And so, I like that Gartner came out with this survey. I like the fact that we're at 17%. We still have a long ways to go. I do think that it shows a lack of progress, but I think we need to take a look at the larger scale issue of diversity and inclusion, and not just gender specific. So anyways, in saying that, we are 1 minute over, but I want to let everybody know who joined us today that we really appreciate you joining us for the show. And thank you, Demo, for coming on Thoughts and Coffee today. I hope that you have an amazing week ahead in Panama. And hopefully we'll have you back on soon.
Yeah, so fun today, and thank you for inviting me and having me in this amazing show. And I thank you for all the guys that show up here. And you know where to find me, and I will be happy to support whatever questions regarding Panama and regional distribution in Latin America.
Yeah, where can people find you? What's your website?
Uh, 3plpanama.com is the website of IPL Group. You can find us
Awesome.
there, and we are always on LinkedIn,
Yeah, LinkedIn.
doing some. Yeah.
Yeah. You can find him on LinkedIn. He's really active, and he's a great guy to know, Demo and Daniel. So thanks for everybody. Have an amazing week, everybody. And we'll see you next week back here with Audrey. Take care.